Welcome back to Katana TCG. In this week's video, we're taking a look at Arcanine EX. This is a card that is a part of our new Scarlet Violet base set that's going to release in a few months here. This is a post-rotation list, and there are still a lot of things that have yet to be released that could potentially shift the way that these lists look like in the future. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got. When it's time to upgrade your TCG accessories, make sure you're checking out inkgaming.com. They have a wide variety of sleeves, dice, deck boxes, and a plethora of things that you can customize like mouse pads, play mats, mat bags, as well as gaming bags. And when you use the code PCSPOD10 at checkout, you can get 10% off your entire order from inkgaming.com. Your game, your style. Arcanine EX is a 280 HP fire Pokemon. Its terrestrial trait doesn't allow it to take damage from your opponent's attacks while it's on the bench, which is kind of cool. The artwork is definitely something else. For 2 fire, it does Raging Claws for 30 damage, and this attack does 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So if you're getting hit for 270, just short of knockout, Raging Claws can clap back and hit for 300 damage because of that plus 30, which is very cool. And then for 3 fire energy, it does Bright Flame for 250 damage. You discard 2 fire energy from this Pokemon, and that seems like a pretty hard hitting lad, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think that hitting 280 is something that this Pokemon can definitely do with a little bit of help from some other cards in this list, and that is the magic number for most of the V-stars in the format that are still going to hang around after rotation. So the whole idea behind this deck is to attack primarily with Arcanine EX using either Raging Claws if you've been attacked, or using Bright Flame to just delete something off the board entirely. We can ramp the damage that Arcanine has by using the Heat Boost ability on Rapidash. This is a stackable effect, so if you have multiple Rapidash set up, you can use the Heat Boost ability as many times as you have a Rapidash set up. So you can discard a fire energy from your hand, and during that turn, your fire Pokemon do 30 more damage. So if you have 2 Rapidash set up, you can do plus 60 damage, which is huge. It's a great math fixer, and it makes Arcanine that much more threatening in terms of attacking with either Raging Claws or Bright Flame. We've also included the new Armarouge into this deck, 130 HP fire Pokemon with the ability Fire Alarm as often as you'd like. You can move a fire energy attached to one of your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon. This works great in lineage with the Magma Basin. Radiant Charizard's also a really cool inclusion in this list. The Excited Heart ability allows it to attack for 1 colorless less for every prize your opponent has taken. If they've taken 4 prizes, you now get to attack for 1 energy, and Combustion Blast for 250 is outstanding. This can really close out games, and you can also increase the damage output on Combustion Blast with Rapidash because it is a fire Pokemon, which is really cool. Although Arcanine's terrestrial trait gives it bench barrier, we have a lot of bench sitting support Pokemon, so it was important to include a Manaphy. And because we are losing things like Air Balloon and Bird Keeper and other really important switch cards like Scoop Up Net, I think that the return of Castform's index is going to be very important. Has free retreat, so it allows you to pivot a little bit and choose the bench Pokemon that you want to accelerate the energy to with things like Magma Basin. We're running 4 Professor's Research for a decent amount of draw. We're running 2 Serena for a little bit of consistency, being able to discard up to 3 cards from our hand and draw until we have 5. Or Gust of V Pokemon seems really, really useful. And then we also run 2 Boss's Orders to just be able to gust anything off the board. And we're running 2 Raihan. Being able to attack with Arcanine's Bright Flame attack does require 3 fire energies. So if you're not able to preserve your fire energy and move them around with Armarouge, Raihan definitely gives you that leg up to be able to hand attach Magma Basin as well as accelerate from the discard pile with Raihan. And then last, we're including the new Miriam supporter. It allows you to shuffle up to 5 Pokemon cards from your discard pile into your deck and then draw 3 cards. This is like the only Pokemon recovery card we're going to have unless something else releases later in the Scarlet Violet sets. But for now, this seems pretty good. You do have a lot of bench sitting support, and if you want to continue to chain Arcanines, it's going to be very, very important to be able to shuffle those back in, and drawing 3 at the end of it only increases your consistency. We're running 4 Nest Ball because Quick Ball is out, and we do need to establish a board state very quick. We're running 4 Ultra Ball to be able to search out our evolution Pokemon, as well as just added consistency. We're running 4 Trekking Shoes for a little added draw consistency. I think that if you don't have the fire energy in the discard pile already to accelerate with Magma Basin, Trekking Shoes will allow you to Top deck something that you may not need in the form of a fire energy, discard it, and then draw into something else to help you make the game go forward. So I think Trekking Shoes is a really good fit for this deck. Running 3 switch, we can only accelerate with Magma Basin to the bench, so it's important to be able to accelerate that energy to your primary attacker, have that hand attachment, and then switch into the active. We're running 1 escape rope just to put a little bit of pressure on our opponent and allow us to have just a little bit more mobility. We're running 2 Defiant Band. Defiant Band's a great new tool that came out in the Scarlet Violet base set release as well. If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, then the Pokemon that this card is attached to, their attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So using Defiant Band in Lineage with the Rapidash's Heat Boost ability, you're able to increase potentially 30, 60, or 90 damage output with Defiant Band and Rapidash. So that's really cool. We're running 4 Magma Basin because that is a huge part of this deck. Not a lot of decks right now are running 4 stadiums to counter Magma Basin, and it allows us to attack pretty freely and as often as we like because we are accelerating at least 2 energy into play per turn. So very, very good. And then we're running 9 Fire Energy. Arcanine EX seems like a very powerful card, and I think that this cookie cutter list that I've given you today will definitely spark some theory crafting, and hopefully we can find a good way to apply Arcanine EX into the new standard format upon the Scarlet Violet release. We're losing so many impactful things in our sets when the deregulation stamp cards rotate out, and it does look like we have a bright flame at the end of the tunnel in the form of Arcanine EX, as well as a lot of other cards that are releasing in Scarlet Violet base set that I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about and theory crafting all these fun decks. If you enjoy my content, make sure you like my video, comment, and then subscribe to my channel, and then be sure to check out the PCS podcast where we release episodes basically every week talking about all things competitive Pokemon all the time. Deuces.